joining us and sharing that insight throughout these topics. Thank you very much. Now we move on. Taiwan's Vice President Hsiao Bi-khim has returned from a landmark diplomatic breakthrough trip to Europe. After returning from the trip, Hsiao has said that Taiwan is not alone and has a lot of friends around the world. She has added that Taiwan will continue to show the world its resolve. Hsiao has also stated that Taiwan's international situation has been extremely difficult, but Taiwan has never backed down. Let's in fact listen into what the Taiwanese Vice President has said.
就是一直以来，台湾的国际处境都非常的困难，有很多的不公平，也有很多的挫折，没有一件事情是容易的。但是我们始终也没有退缩，因为我们相信台湾人民跟世界公民一样，都该有参与国际社会的机会，更因为有全体国人的努力与坚持，让我们在不曾停止的艰困与挑战当中，也要一步一步开创我们的道路。
Hsiao also spoke at the Inter-Parliamentary Alliance on China's annual summit held in the European Parliament in Brussels. While Taiwan foreign ministers on occasion visit Europe and other parts of the world that have no formal ties to Chinese-claimed Taipei, it is rare for an official as senior as the vice president to do so, given the risk of backlash from Beijing against the host nation. China refuses to speak to Taiwanese President Lai Ching-te and his administration and deems the president as a separatist. Now for this discussion, we welcome Venus Upadhyaya. She's a senior journalist, joins us live from Taipei. Thank you very much for joining us. Welcome to NewsX World. Venus, looking at this now, what does Vice President Hsiao Bi-khim's visit to Europe signals about Taiwan's growing diplomatic engagement despite Beijing's opposition?
I think it's a very significant trip because this is not the first, annual conference of APEC, but this is the first time that as the Vice President of Taiwan, she has spoken at the European Parliament. So I think that is something very significant that itself loudly gives a message to the PRC. And I think the PRC would have certainly noticed that. Her speech also has many important points, where if you have gone through her speech, you see that she describes Taiwan as a democracy under pressure. She talks about maintaining the rule-based order in the world. She talks about a common fight, against autocratic regimes. She talks about economic resilience. So there are many important things that, she talks about, which is actually the shared concerns of all the democracies in the world today. So I think her trip is very significant, keeping in mind that, she has spoken at the European Parliament. Meanwhile, I think we should also know that European Parliament is one of the largest investor in Taiwan. If you go through it, so it's not that the Taiwanese weren't having relationships with the countries in the European Parliament, but yes, there was always PRC pressure on the interaction between Taiwanese and rest of the world. But something certainly is drastically changing, and that is getting reflected. Maybe it is the fears of a 2027 invasions, that is making the world look at Taiwan in certainly a certain different way.
Right, and building on that, what risks or benefits does Europe face in welcoming, risking welcoming Taiwanese leaders in summits like these, and how might China's condemnation and view, in this case particularly, visit impact EU's China relations?
I think it's a very dynamic situation. So I think there is no linear narrative to it. If you look at all these interactions, so for that matter, this is not the first annual conference of, the IPAC. This is the third time where she mentions that last time they met in Taipei, and before that, for her, this is the third time. Last time they met in Taipei, before that they met in Washington, D.C. So I think the Taiwanese administration has been giving loud messages And whereas if you look at PRC, the messages that are coming from PRC have also remained the same. So I do not think that the Chinese are differing from their point of view or their narrative on Taiwan, and the Taiwanese are obviously not differing from their persistent narrative about their sovereignty. But what is changing right now is the context in the Indo-Pacific. And so if you look at the messages that have come up, even if you look at Trump and Xi's recent meeting in South Korea, Trump says that, Taiwan was not discussed at all. That in itself is a very loud message. But if you look at, the US interaction with PRC, or if you look at the European Union's interaction with PRC, they also have met in Kuala Lumpur. So you see, these are very dynamic interactions where countries are now interacting for various kind of interest. And I think that Trump's trade and tariffs have made the entire situation very dynamic, where you have to kind of compete for specific interest. You have larger strategic interest and you have larger differences of opinions, but you also have certain converging interests. And in that context, I think there are messages where the European Union and US have said that we need, PRC's help to basically, put an end to the Ukraine war. But on the other end, I think the European Union has also given, and the US has also given a loud message that their stand on the issues of Taiwan remain the same.
Yes, with that, I would like to thank Venus Upadhyaya for joining us today and sharing that insight all the way from Taiwan. Now, moving on, according to reports, the Pakistani Chief of Naval Staff Naveed Ashraf has said that the first batch of Hanger-class conventionally powered attack submarines jointly built by China and Pakistan is expected to enter service in Pakistan's Navy next year. Ashraf has also stated that the submarine program is progressing smoothly. He has added that the program is notable for boosting Islamabad's submarine force capabilities and reflecting close Sino-Pakistani collaboration on naval equipment. Reports also suggest that this confirmation from Pakistan's top naval official suggests India's dominance of the Indian Ocean could be tested, and that if Beijing has overcome a major technical hurdle. Now, for this discussion, we welcome retired Major General G.G. Dwivedi. He's a defense analyst, joins us live from New Delhi. Thank you very much, Major General, for joining us again. Thank you. Now, looking at this, does China's deepening military collaboration with Pakistan, including submarine technology transfer, signal a broader strategy to counter India's influence in Indo-Pacific? What do you think is the motive of Pakistan upping such defense cooperation with China?
Well, firstly, Suma, always a pleasure to be on the NewsX World, right? Well, this information or this news does not come as a surprise, because the defense cooperation, or in fact the nexus between Pakistan and China, has grown over the years for last about more than 5 decades. And of late, you see that this nexus is getting further, deeper, especially from the strategic dimensions. Firstly, coming to the submarine per se, well, it has a operational connotation, because this deal was signed sometime in 2015 for 8 Hangover class submarines, which Pakistan was to get from China. This is a joint project, and these submarines are definitely on a very high operational technological scale, because they have the air independent propulsion. That means that these submarines don't have to surface or snorkel up off and on, because they can remain submerged for almost 3 weeks. So therefore, this gives definitely added capability to Pakistan, and in that way it can excise area access, area denial, and definitely pose challenge to India's domination in the Indian Ocean, especially the Western Indian Ocean, that is the Arabian Sea, and also up to the Gulf. Second point is we need to see the strategic dimension. Pakistan today is 80% equipment is from China, whether it is frigates, whether land system, all are from China. And China also has invested about $70 billion on the China-Pakistan economic corridor. Now, what are the Chinese designs? Well, I think the land dispute between India and China, while it will continue, but Chinese focus now is on the Indo-Pacific, Indian Ocean region. And you see the string of bases the Chinese have made, right from Myanmar, there is Choi Pyu, they have a base Ream in Cambodia, then they also investing in Chittagong Airport, they have also got some facilities in Sri Lanka, Djibouti and Gwadar, not to forget, is coming up as a major base. And only last week, China has launched a third aircraft carrier Fujian, and they already have Liaoning and Shantung, three aircraft carriers. So what does it all indicate? It indicates that Chinese are going to step into Indian Ocean region in a big way, and they want to dominate the maritime sea routes, especially the energy routes, and also overcome the Malacca syndrome, that means the choke point of Malacca. So they like to have a good deal of assets placed in places like their bases in Gwadar or bases in Djibouti. So all I can say is that this has to be seen both in the operational and strategic dimension. Operationally, Pakistan Navy gets augmented capability, but when you see jointly, it is Pakistan, China nexus that will be actually overplaying in this region, especially when it comes to domination of Indian Ocean region or Indo-Pacific. Asuma.
Yes, building on your answer, Major General, as you mentioned that Pakistan relies heavily, you mentioned 80% on Chinese defense capabilities, and China also has invested heavily on Pakistan-China corridor, economic corridor, as well as the infrastructures you mentioned, such as Gwadar. So to what extent does Pakistan's increasing reliance on Chinese defense technology strengthen Beijing's strategic foothold? And also, what risks does Pakistan face in relying so heavily only on China?
Well, Pakistan as a state has always invested in its interest while compromising its strategic autonomy. They have been used by big powers like America, and now Chinese are using them. It's almost like a vassal state. Pakistan is in deep debt, and they only bail them out by borrowing, and many times they are almost on the verge of defaulting for the IMF paybacks. So the point is that the Pakistanis quite know that when Chinese invest or the Chinese support comes at a cost, and the Chinese follow the debt trap diplomacy, and that way Pakistan is no exception. So Pakistan quite knows that whatever support they are getting from China, it has a cost to pay. And Pakistan almost is like a vassal state. They are not a partner, but they are actually, I think, the compliant state of China. And Chinese have got a full foothold in Pakistan, because not only economically, as far as defense equipment is concerned, and also the Chinese have of late also stationed their security forces to protect their assets, especially they have been repeated attacks on the Chinese national along the China-Pakistan economic corridor, and China also in a big way exploiting the Pakistani mineral resources, especially when it comes to Balochistan and also in POK. The point I'm trying to make is that Pakistan quite knows that it has to pay a price by being a vassal state, which they are quite willing to do because they have twofold strategic interest. One is to, challenge India and come up as a proxy of China against India. And secondly, they want to be a flag bearer of the Islamic world. So both the ends, they are willing to go to any extent, may it be compromise of the strategic autonomy or falling to debt trap, but they will continue to pursue these two goals, and the price they will be paying is quite obvious, because Pakistan today is in dire state as far as economy is concerned. Its dependence on China is complete, and I think that they are almost a vassal or client state, and that reality they are willing to accept, Asuma.
Yes, with that I would like to thank Major General Gigi Dwivedi for always joining us and sharing that insight as a defense analyst from New Delhi. Thank you very much. Now we move on to the Philippines. Philippines has evacuated over 100,000 residents across its eastern and northern region as Typhoon Fang-Wong intensifies into a super typhoon ahead of its expected arrival, threatening to unleash torrential rains, destructive winds, and storm surges. Storm alert signals have been hoisted across large parts of Philippines with signal number 5. This is the highest warning raised over the southeastern Luzon, including Catanduanes and coastal areas of Camarines Norte and Camarines Sur. While on the other hand, Metro Manila and surrounding areas are under signal number 3. According to reports, the super typhoon Fang-Wong, which is locally known as Uwan, is set to make a landfall in the Orola province in central Luzon. Now moving on, in South Korea, rescue teams have recovered a third body from the rubble of the collapsed structure at a decommissioned power station in Ulsan. The collapse has occurred as workers were dismantling parts of the massive steel facility in preparation for demolition. Authorities say 4 workers remain trapped, with rescuers still unable to locate 2 of them. Emergency crews are using heat sensors, remote cameras, and search dogs to locate the missing workers. However, officials say rescue efforts are moving cautiously due to the high risk of another collapse. Though the fire department has not yet released an official statement, rescue operations are still continuing in the region. And that's a wrap on the China report. Keep